All right, exercise 5.2. It's a second part of 5.2. Is going to be on percent story problems. Hopefully everybody has this written down. I gave you a little bit of time to write these down. Let's go ahead and work through this, and then I'll show you what we're going to do on the calculator as well. If you can, again, try to use the calculators that we have up here, the TI-30 XS Multi-View. But here we go. There are 430 students going on a field trip. 40% of those students are male. How many of the students are male? So 40% of the 430 students are male. If you can reverbalize the word problems to be in a situation where you know where the of is and you know where the is part will be, these are a bit easier to do. So there are 430 total students and 40% are male. 40% of those 430 students. So I would set this up by just saying 0.4 times 430. And if you want to leave it 40% and use the percent key on your calculator, that's fine as well. But it's just less keystrokes. If you can convert that in your head, then it's a lot easier just to type in 0.4 times 430. So when I pull up calculator, I'm just going to go 0.4 times 430. Enter. Notice that's the same thing. If you want, if you feel more comfortable, just typing in 40% times 430. By all means, you can do that as well. You get the same thing, 172. Questions on the first one? What did we say it was? 172, is that right? Yes? If it asks for how many female students, there's two different ways that you could do this. Just to talk about it a little bit, what if it said there are 430 students, there were 40% are male, how many are female? There's two different ways that you could do it now that you found the number of male students. Can someone tell me one of those ways? Yep. Just subtract 172 from 430. That would be correct. And then there's another way that you could do it. Let's say if you just want to find the number of females students directly. What's another way you could do it? Let's say we didn't find the number of male students. Yes, right here. 0.6 times 430, because if 40% are male, then the other 60% are female. Correct? Okay? All right. Let's go to this one. You want to buy a TV that costs $550. You have enough money saved to pay for 60% of the cost. How much money do you have saved? Again, you'll start off with your homework that are pretty easy ones. You don't have to think in terms of the other percent. But later on, there'll be questions that will say, it costs $550, you save 60%, how much more money do you need? Then you would need to use the 40%, right? So you have to read it carefully. But here, we need $550, and we've saved 60%, so we're going to take 0.6 times 550. Or you can just take 60% times 550, depending on how you want to type it into your calculator. It's less keystrokes, though, if you can convert in your head. 0.6 times 550. Okay, $330 you have saved. But if you like to use your percent key, you've been known to make some mistakes when you're converting percents, then by all means, just type it in that way. Same answer. Okay, so what? $330. So if it wanted to know how much money you still needed to save, you could take 550 minus 330 and get $220. That would be the same thing as if you took 0.4 times 550, because you still have 40% left to save. Okay? Give you a second to write this down. What percent is this of that? There are some people who have learned in the past to use this ratio of is over of equals percent over 100. So I will show it to you this way as well, because I really don't care how you solve the problem. If you're better with ratios and you want to use ratios for these percents, by all means do that, and I'll try to explain it to you. I tend to just write it as a sentence, so I'll show you a little bit of both ways so that you have your choice. I want you to have as many weapons at your disposal to try to attack these problems. This can be a nice approach, especially when you're solving for the percent part. So I do like the is over of equals percent over 100 when you're looking for P. Because is, the first number that comes after is 3, over of, the first number that comes after the of is 12, and that's going to equal the percent, that's what we're looking for, we'll call it P, over 100. And the nice part about this is now you can just cross multiply and divide. If you want, you can make this a decimal. 3 over 12 is 0.25, then multiply by 100. But a lot of times when we have ratios, we cross multiply. 3 times 100 equals 12 times P. 3 times 100 is 300. We can do these without a calculator. Okay, and then we'll divide by 12. In your calculator, if you want to do it in your calculator, you certainly can just do it there. And take 300 divided by 12. Or you could reduce it down. But I'm going to try to show you some calculator work, mainly because I want you to feel comfortable typing things into your calculator. It's 25%. Is everybody okay with that? If you've been in the past, you've had a tendency to just write this as an equation, you can certainly do that. I mean, one way to do this problem, a second way to do it, is just to say, what percent is 3 of 12? So you have to kind of reword it. You're going to say, what percent, essentially, what percent of 12 is 3? Okay? What percent of 12 is 3? And then you can divide by 12. 3 over 12 is 0.25, and then just make that 25%. That works just as well. I have a tendency to more just to write equations, like that second method, as opposed to doing the ratio. But I think the ratio works well for a lot of people, so I want to make sure you feel free to use that method. So this one, 30 is what percent of 12? So 30 is the is part. The of part is 15. And we just go P over 100. 30 over 15, hopefully we don't need a calculator for that. That's going to be 2. And now if we multiply both sides of the equation by 100 to get rid of it here. So understand, when I'm multiplying this 100 up, what I'm really doing is multiplying both sides of the equation by 100, right? That's how it balances out. That's why it's legal to do it. And I get P equals 200%. So the is over of equals percent over 100 can be really nice to use. If you want to write it like an equation, you certainly could do this one. Here's a second method by simply saying 30 is what percent of 15? You can write it just like an equation. Divide both sides by 15. Just don't forget when you're looking for a percent, then you got to multiply by 100. And that's something that students forget sometimes. So the nice part about this method here, the is over of equals percent over 100, it takes care of that multiplication by 100 every time for you. So you don't forget. Example number 4. This is x percent of what? So here's 2 problems. Go ahead and write these down. Then we'll do it. We have 2 more slides. Then we'll be done, and we'll do the homework from yesterday. All right, the first word problem here says 14 students were selected as class representatives. These students represent 4% of the total class. How many students are in the class? One key thing to know about percents is we always take the percent of a total to get a part. So when we look at this particular problem, we're going to say 4%. And 4%, how do I write that as a decimal? Point what? 0.04. And if we wanted, we could write 4 over 100. If you'd rather use fractions, you certainly can do that. It's 4 over 100. But I'm going to say 0.04 of the total students in the class will equal the 14 students. That's the way I'm going to look at it, just like an equation. and then I'm going to divide by 0.04. So in my calculator, I'm going to take 14 divided by 0.04. 14 divided by 0.04 is going to be 350 students in the class. That's how I would do that one. Okay? On the second one here, is the one that tends to give students more problems, because it really is a percent increase or percent decrease problem. And those are the ones that always tend to give students more problems. But to me, they're the most important, because when you walk into a department store and it says you're going to get 19% off a particular item, it's amazing how many students don't know how to calculate that, how many consumers don't know how to calculate that. And there's a lot of times department stores are incorrect. You go up to the register, it says you're getting 20% off of something, and people just pay it because they don't know the difference. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a store and said, wait a second, it said it's what a percent, oh, then they got to recalculate it. And it's just uninformed consumers. I mean, it's one of, this is definitely a skill. How many times do you hear in math, when do I need to know this? This is one you need to know, because people will try to rip you off. A camcorder is on sale for 19% off. The original cost was $499.99. What is the sale price? Here's the idea. It was originally $499.99. I'm going to subtract off 19% of that. And that's going to give me the sale price. That's going to tell me what the sale price is. So you always have to start with the original. And if it's a percent increase, it would be plus the percent times the original. Okay? But since it's a decrease problem, it's the original minus the percent times the original. Okay? So I'm going to type this into the calculator, just like that. 499.99, and I'm going to subtract 0.19 times 499.99, and we're going to get $404.99. Now, they would say if you have any fraction of a cent, you could round up, but I'm just going to leave it like this. Okay, $409.99. That would be the sale price. Okay, so we should put a dollar sign. Everybody good on that question? So don't forget, if it's a percent increase or percent decrease, you have to start with the original, plus or minus the percent of the original. Last slide before the assignment, I think it is. Okay, last one, then I'll give you the assignment, percent change. And the last one we did really was a percent change, but here it is. Okay, go ahead and write these two down. All right, there are two different ways that you can look at this problem as well. I'll try to give you a shortcut when we're done with the first way. But to start out with, the price of a new cell phone went from $249 to $174.99. So $249.99 to $174.99. What was the percent change? We're obviously getting a reduction in the price. Okay, so we started with $249.99, and we're going to subtract a certain percent of $249.99 to get the sale price of $174.99. So I'm going to subtract, if I'm going to solve for P here, I'm going to subtract the $249.99 to the other side. And if we subtract 174.99 minus 249.99, we get 005, what's it turn out to be? 575? Does that sound right? Negative 75. What does that 75 really tell us about this problem? It tells us how much money we what? We what? Saved, right? We saved $75. That's the discount. It was discounted $75. So really, this question could have said the original price was $24.99. You get a $75 discount. What percent is that? What percent discount did you receive? And now if we want to solve, we're going to divide by negative 249.99. That'll get rid of this, and we'll get p by itself. So we're going to take negative 75 divided by negative 249.99. So I'm going to type that into the calculator. Negative 75 divided by negative 249.99. And we get 0.3000, so 30%. It's a 30% discount. Okay? Everybody good on that? Now, I'm going to show you a shortcut. If you can remember, this works every time for percent increase, percent decrease. One thing that you can do, you can take the new price minus the old price, and it doesn't matter if it's plus or minus. It really doesn't matter. So new price, this will work every time if you want to find a percent increase or decrease. You can always put the change in price. In other words, the old price minus the new price. Okay? Or the new price minus it doesn't matter what order you subtract in. You might just get a negative number. Okay? The old price minus the new price divided by the old price. That will work every time. Because if you think about it, the old price was that, minus that is 75, divided by whatever the old price was. It works every time. Watch, let's try this one that way. The price of an oil change went from $23.99 to $27.99. So old price minus the new price is negative 4. It's 4. That's the amount that it changed. So the amount of change over the original price. What was the original price? The $23.99 or the $27.99? $23.99. That will give you the percent change every single time. So take 4 divided by $23.99. 4 divided by 23.99 is going to be 0.1667. So 16.7% when we change it to a percent. 16.7% is the percent of change. Okay. To find a percent change, just find the difference in the two values and divide by the original value, and it will work every time. So if you want to do it in a nice, quick, two-step process, that will work every single time. Okay? Questions on that? Here's the assignment. Write that down quickly, and then we'll put yesterday's answers into the clickers.